Welcome back to Fantasy Baseball, Baseball, Baseball. Steve, part of Fantasy Baseball, Baseball, Baseball is the Baseball, Baseball, Baseball part. And I love baseball. And let's talk about Major League Baseball, shall we?
Oh, I'd love to. I think that's a good idea.
Well, just out of the gate, a couple teams. Let's start in the American League this time instead of the National League. Detroit's 18 and 10, 8 and 2 in their last 10. Um,
The ch- And let's not forget they were in the playoffs last year.
They were in the playoffs last year. Mize, we were talking about in the fantasy podcast portion. He's pitching well for Detroit. They are getting good pitching. Their um, differential is runs against 87, so they're getting really good pitching
Yeah,
and
elite.
elite. And runs scored 129, nothing to sneeze at, which is like third in the American League. And right now they have the best percentage record in the American League. It's pretty impressive. We'll go through the AL Central since we're there. Cleveland's 2.5 back at 15 and 12. KC 4.5 back at 14 and 15, a game under 500. Minnesota 12 and 16, and Chicago 7 and 21, already out of it. It's not really surprising
Yeah.
about the White Sox. Minnesota, I think, can still fight back to be a 500 team. But very surprised about Detroit. And like you said, they were a playoff team last year. The East, the American
Yeah.
League East, have the Yankees at 17 and 11. And then your Boston Red Sox at 16 and 14, 2 games above 500 and 2 games back. How do they look, Steve?
They look good. They've got some guys coming back from the injury list, so their pitching staff is finally getting healthy. And they have a lot of hitting options. So we'll see.
They're 6 and 4 in their last 10. Tampa Bay at 500, 14 and 14. We've discussed them. They're always right there. They're only 3 games back. Toronto 4 games back at 13 and 15. And then Baltimore 10 and 17. A big surprise. I think there was a little more expected out of Baltimore this year.
Yeah, I mean, they've got so many young guys with high potential, and they kind of blew it on the Corbin Burns thing, letting him walk. Their pitching, it's got to be their pitching, right? Oh
Well,
no, I don't know. Look at
that's a
their,
good question. Let's look at their run defense. They have runs against is 147, which is the highest amount of runs against in the American League. Of course, they play the National League too, so we really should say it's third in the whole major leagues. But yes, their pitching is not good, so maybe not a great decision. The runs scored are 108. So Baltimore really a big hole. That's a big hole to get out of. 10 and 17. You can go 8 and 2 and only be 18 and 19. So
yeah.
it's a yeah. So but 18 and 19 would be a lot better. Then we got to the West real quick. Total switch around from earlier podcast. Seattle now in front with 16 and 12 record. Texas right behind 15 and 13. Houston 14 and 13, a game and a half back. The A's at 500, 2 games back at 14 and 14, and then the Los Angeles Angels 12 and 15. They're 3.5 back. They were like in first or second. They have fallen to the bottom where probably they were more expected to be.
Pretty much.
They're 3 and 7 in their last 10, and their runs against is 133, which is, not as bad as Baltimore. But in the American League, it's the second worst, and in the major leagues, real quick, it's up there like 6 or 7. So
Yeah,
they're not
they had
getting the
that good
pitching.
start, but
They had a
yeah,
great start.
it's
Yeah, the pitching's catching up with them. Runs scored is 100, so it's decent, more than Texas and Houston, so who are playing decently and above 500. Then the National League. Let's talk about the National League West because that's where the best teams reside.
well, hold on. Before we move on, let's do a little talk right there on the Seattle Mariners,
The
right?
Seattle Mariners, who are
Who are,
7 and 3 in their last 10.
they're 16 and 12. They're in first, and they've actually got 138 runs scored.
Wow.
Only the Yankees and the Red Sox have scored more in the American League. Is that fucking crazy?
There's only 3 teams in the National League that have them also, so that is crazy. That is crazy. They've scored that many runs. They have put together a decent offense that's working. And we brought up Polanco in an earlier segment, and he's one of the things that's really contributing to the offense. 138 runs scored, 123 runs against those, Steve, and that may not be the
Yeah, and they're
worst, but it's
well.
it's not. I think they expected their pitching to be a little better. They do have some
Oh,
injuries.
Yeah, they have some injuries and they've had a couple of guys get blown up, so but yeah, the pitching should be better, and I'm shocked that they're hitting, and they're 4 games over 500. I'll take it.
Absolutely. Then the National League, we got the West has the best teams. San Francisco Giants, as we talked about before, 19 and 10. They're playing fantastic. The last 10 games, they're 6 and 4. Runs against is 107, respectable 135 runs scored. Very surprising by the Giants, Steve, but they are still at the top of the West.
Yeah, a month into the season, I would
Yeah.
not have guessed it.
Nah, me neither. Dodgers right there, of course, we would have guessed that. 18 and 10, a half game back. Both teams 6 and 4 in the last 10. San Diego 17 and 11. There's three teams with over 600 percentage winning loss percentage. That's pretty impressive. They're only 1.5 games back. Obviously, overall, the toughest league in the majors.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a tough division, and they
Ha-
still have Arizona, don't
y-
the Diamondbacks.
Yep, fourth place, only 3.5 games back at 15 to 13. Then Colorado. We say this every week. It's a beautiful place, beautiful field. 4 and 23.
And
Since
they're
we
one
last
and
talked,
nine
they're
in their
1 and 9.
last 10.
Yep, 1 and 9 in the last 10. That's just, oh,
Oh,
that's bad, man.
oh,
That is
and
bad. Really.
well, they've lost 6 in a row, so that means they're 1-6 since we did this last week.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
That is really bad. Chicago leading the Central at 17 and 12. Cincinnati 15 and 13. Milwaukee 14 and 15. They're 3 games back, just a game below. Milwaukee was dealt a bad blow. Didn't somebody get injured?
Oh, which guy got injured?
Did
I don't
Yelich
know.
get
Nothing
injured?
jumps. No, I didn't
No.
see anything.
Okay. I thought somebody got. I thought Yelich got injured. St. Louis 4.5 back at 12 and 16, 4 games below 500, and the Pirates trying to stick around, only 6 games back, but 11 and 18, digging themselves a hole as they are 4 and 6 in the last 10. That's the Central. The Cubbies playing well. A lot of talk about them being one of the better teams in baseball. They're 6 and 4 in their last 10. The Mets leading the National League in percentage at 690. You know, that's pretty impressive, Steve.
Yeah, the Mets are rolling. They are rolling.
20 and 9, 8 and 2 in their last 10. They swept the Phillies, who are in second place at 15 and 13, 4.5 games back. Definitely a disappointment. We're definitely having some problems. I mean, just to let you know, this is hard to do, but their run differential is totally even. 124 runs scored, 124 runs against.
Do
Um,
you think are they trying that on purpose?
oh no. I mean, if there's some sort of guy who placed a bet on that in Vegas, maybe. Um, But that's no, they're not scoring as much runs. I mean, as they want to. I mean, the Nationals have 123 runs scored, and they should be better offensively than the Nationals. No offense to the Nationals. Um, so they're not scoring enough runs, and the pitching's giving up too many runs. So
Yeah,
it's just it's a very average team. They have an average record of 15 and 13. We got some players like Bohm and stuff not coming along. Stott is leading off, which I like because he's a fantasy player of mine and I want him to play well. So Washington at 13 16, Atlanta at 12 and 15, and Miami at 12 and 15. So let's talk about Atlanta. They're 7 and 3 in their last 10. They built the big hole, 1 and 8, I believe. So,
1-8.
since then, they are 11 and 7, but
Yeah.
they're still 3 games below 500. They're 7 games back, but I would say another week or two of stuff like that, they're back in it.
Oh yeah. They should be right in there with. Well, they'll pass Washington. That goes without saying, right?
Yeah,
And then they're probably going to be on Philly's ass like in about 2 weeks.
absolutely. I think it's going to be a tight race. It's always interesting to see how the season plays out. We discussed earlier, we're about, you know, a sixth of the season through, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
25
close.
games. Yeah. Or yeah, I mean, yeah, about that. So. it's very interesting to see where the teams are going. Like Atlanta started so slow, but they're rising. Colorado, 4 wins in 27 games. I mean, nobody
Okay.
expected that. Nobody expected anything good. Let's put it this way: the White Sox
Yeah,
at 7 and 21 are like, woohoo! Thank goodness. Um, it's sad.
I would
I
hate
wonder if they play each other this year.
I would hate for the White Sox to have two, back to back 100 loss seasons. That's
Yeah,
pretty brutal.
that's brutal, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely
that's
brutal.
not good.
It's sad. It's tough to be a fan. We talked about it last week about it really tests the fanhood of when you're a team that not just you're in last place, but you're not good at all. And that's what's going on in Colorado. We have a friend who's a fan of Colorado, so lots of props to him as he tries to get through the season and think the best. But they do have some good young players. And if I'm Colorado, there's just no reason not to play all the young guys, right?
Yeah, because they don't really have anybody who's like a veteran and or expensive except for the perennially injured Chris Bryant. So just go all in. Yeah, just play every young guy you got and go for it. I would, I mean, I don't know.
But if Chris Bryant is healthy, you play him to trade him away from somebody because he's a guy, if
Oh,
healthy, someone will trade for.
true. If you can get anything, but you feel bad for that guy. He's playing on a shitty team with a bunch of kids. He's in his 30s. He's been rehabbing injuries every year, half the year, every year for like 5 years. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
it's got
you
to be
do feel
rough for
bad.
him.
Got to be rough. Got
Yeah.
to be rough. So you always hope for the best. Now we'll go over some leaders real quick. Average major league leaders: Judge and Goldschmidt, 417 and 362. The Yankees have the two leaders in average. Um, then Donovan 352, Tatis at 346, Lux at 341, Quan at 339, Alonso at 337. I'll stop there. Springer 225, but still, those are some high averages early on in the season for the leaders.
Yeah. And there's currently 23 qualifiers who are hitting 300 or higher. That's probably the highest it's been in a few years.
That's pretty impressive, actually. Home run leaders Raleigh and Suarez tied at 10 in the major leagues. Carroll from the Diamondbacks at 9, Soderstrom at 9, Trout and Wood from the Nationals at 9. And then we got a bunch of people with 8. Torkelson, Tatis, Judge, Hernandez from the Dodgers, Edmund, and Cruz, O'Neill Cruz from the Pirates. So a lot of balls leaving the park too. I mean, we're talking people at 10, people at we'll just go down to the people at 8. They're now on pace technically for about 45 plus homers.
Dang.
I mean, that's counting a few off days, blah, blah, blah. They don't keep this pace up. But times six, pretty much, right, is where we're at. The stats, 25 to 30 games, 25
Yeah,
games,
a little
tied
under,
a
but
little under.
close.
So that's why I made it a little under. So yeah, they're not going to keep that pace up. RBI leaders, Flores from the Giants lead the major leagues 28. I just wanted to say that because nobody bet that.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's great to see him. Listen, he's a savvy veteran of the age of 33, Steve. He's been playing baseball since 2013, and in 101 at bats, he's batting only 248, but he has 7 homers and 28 ribbies, and he's also got, only 13 runs, but still 28 ribbies. Alonso second with 27 ribbies, and Judge tied for second with 27 ribbies. And then Hernandez and Tucker rounding out the top five. They're tied for fourth, 25 ribbies. Another guy not expected to be in the top five early on. You don't know. Hernandez from the Dodgers. He's a guy that is going to have,
Yep.
he had 99 last year. You expect him to be a top five guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's on pace for like 130 right now.
More,
You know?
140. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, about. So it's amazing the leaders and real quick pitching leaders is, so early going on, but wins. We have Freed and how do you say his name? Brandon Flat from Arizona.
Spot, right? I think
Fott.
it's spot.
Freed and Fott, Freed and Fott. There you go. Freed and Fott, Freed and Fott, Freed and Fott. Or sorry, but I saw it. I took it. They both have 5 wins to lead the league. That is interesting if you want to look at it from the way I made those noises and they
Yeah.
lead the league. Brown and Bueller Canning, who just got his fourth win. Mize and Pavetta and Quintana and Singer all have four winners. We talked about Quintana, a guy, a savvy veteran. He's been around forever. He's 36 years old. He's not pitching super great, but he's pitching. Actually, he is pitching super great. He's 4-0 with a
It kind of
1.14
is.
with a 1.14 ERA and a 1.14 WHIP. His 15 strikeouts in 23 innings. I mean, whatever. He's 4-0. I mean, there's a guy. I mean, it's just great to have on your squad as like a third or fourth pitcher.
It's really amazing what he's still getting done. I mean, kudos to him for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty impressed. And real leaders, quickly, leaders in strikeouts, Gore of the Nationals, 53, Wheeler with 50. And then Meyer of Marlins with 40 seconds, Reagan's 46 from the Royals, and Rodon 45 from the Yankees round up the top five. Um, Nothing surprising there. Meyer, maybe, coming out. He's a rookie, I believe, or a young guy, anyways.
Yep, Meyer, the rookie out of Miami, he's got good stuff. He's just got to harness it. Plays for a bad team. Logan Gilbert from Seattle, who really he was probably one of the guys with some of the lower K per nines out of all their pitchers. Like he's good, but this year he's got 44 strikeouts through 30 innings. He's just
Yeah,
mowing people down.
he's tied for six with Cratchit and Webb of the Red Sox and Giants. That is amazing when someone rises. They've already established themselves in the league for a few years. He started pitching at 21, um, and all of a sudden his strikeout per nine is higher than it used to be.
Yeah, he's pitching great.
Yeah, he is pitching great. It's always interesting to look at the stats. Major League Baseball, Steve. I could talk about baseball all day long, as I talked in a different segment. Box scores are the DNA of baseball. If you haven't looked at a box score, go look at a box score. It's fun to do. And I got to say one thing. I'm older than some people maybe out there, and you're used to looking at all these box scores on your phone or your computer, right? There was something magical about a newspaper because they were all right there. I didn't have to click or anything. They're all right there in the newspaper.
I would agree. I would agree.
There was something great about that. Sure, it was the next day, but that was before you could get it that night on the fingertips on your computer or phone. But box scores, the DNA of baseball. That's what we're doing here in baseball, 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 fantasy baseball, baseball, baseball. I'm Dan O'Day McClellan. That's Steve Romano. Thanks, Steve, for talking about baseball.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.
Cheers. Oh, I got to